What would you do if you stepped onto the African savanna one day and realized you were no longer the only predator? For the Hadza people of northern Tanzania, every hunting trip is more than a search for food. It is a quiet confrontation with some of Africa's most dangerous predators. Across this vast landscape, where countless species share the same territory, a single footprint pressed into the sand can determine whether the entire group moves forward or immediately changes course. In this world, survival is not about conquering nature. It is about knowing when to advance and when to step back. As the sun climbs higher, intense heat spreads across the dry savanna. Each Hadza hunter carries a handmade bow crafted from strong hardwood, along with slender arrows tipped with metal points coated in poison extracted from local plants, powerful enough to bring down prey after a successful hit. Suddenly, the group stops. In front of them are large paw prints with rounded pads and no visible claw marks. Without saying much, everyone recognizes the unmistakable tracks of a leopard that passed through not long ago. The hunters begin following the trail with remarkable calm. Every step is carefully planned, always keeping the wind in their favor so their scent will not reach the animal. They examine freshly scraped tree trunks, recently disturbed grass, and new claw marks left on the bark to judge the leopard's distance. After nearly an hour of tracking, they finally spot the animal resting on the branch of a tree, its sharp eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. No one rushes to attack. One small mistake could instantly turn the hunters into the hunted. When they are finally close enough, one hunter slowly raises his bow and releases the first arrow. It narrowly misses, causing the leopard to leap to another branch in an attempt to escape. Without wasting the opportunity, the hunter quickly fires a second shot. This time, the arrow strikes its target. The leopard stumbles, loses its balance, and falls into the brush below. Once the animal is no longer able to fight back, the Hadza carefully approach and locate it. After making sure the area is safe, they quickly carry their catch away before the scent of blood attracts other predators to... On the journey back, the Hadza do not head straight to camp. As they pass through an open woodland, the experienced hunters quickly locate a wild beehive. One person carefully gathers dry leaves and fallen branches to create smoke, while the others prepare to collect the honey. As the smoke calms the bees, they open the hollow tree and remove the golden honeycombs, enjoying some of the fresh honey right there in the forest. The rest is carefully wrapped and carried back to camp. For the Hadza, honey is more than a rich source of energy. It is a well-earned reward after long hours of hunting beneath the scorching African sun. After returning from a long day, they gather around the fire to prepare the meal, sharing everything equally among every member of the community. No one keeps the best portion for themselves, and no one is left behind. As everyone sits together around the flames, the elders recount stories from past hunts, teaching the younger generation how to recognize the tracks of hyenas, lions, and leopards, and how to respond if they unexpectedly encounter them. These lessons are never written in books, yet they've been passed down from one generation to the next for tens of thousands of years, forming the foundation that has allowed the Hadzabe to survive in one of the world's most challenging environments. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about the Hadzabe is not their hunting skill, but their understanding of their place in nature. They know when to follow a trail, when to avoid an animal's territory, and when to accept that the wilderness does not belong to any single species. While modern society often tries to control nature, the Hadzabe have chosen a different path, living alongside it through observation, respect, and adaptation. Perhaps that is the true secret behind a way of life that has endured for tens of thousands of years.
As a thin layer of mist still hovered over the vast grasslands of Tanzania, the small Hadzabe camp was already beginning a new day. This was not going to be an ordinary foraging trip. The previous afternoon, several hunters had discovered large tracks deeply pressed into the soft ground near a seasonal waterhole. The tracks belonged to a herd of African buffalo, animals renowned for their immense strength and unpredictable temperament. For the Hadzabe people, this was a rare opportunity to bring back enough food to sustain the entire community for many days. Before setting out, the atmosphere in the camp felt different from usual. The women prepared water containers and simple food supplies for the long journey ahead. Children gathered around the fire, watching attentively as the men inspected their bows and arrows, some of which had been prepared days in advance. No one appeared rushed. For the Hadzabe, hunting does not begin with chasing prey, but with patience. Every step of preparation reflects knowledge passed down through generations of living in the wilderness. As the sun rose higher above the horizon, the hunting party moved into savanna. They traveled in a long line, making almost no sound at all. Their eyes continuously scanned the ground for even the smallest clues. A fresh hoofprint, a few bent blades of grass, or a layer of mud drying along the edge of a water source could all tell the story of where the buffalo herd had gone. After hours of tracking, the hunters began to notice clearer signs. Low shrubs had been pressed flat, and patches of freshly disturbed earth suggested that the herd had passed through the area not long before. The deeper they moved into the hunting grounds, the more tense the atmosphere became. African buffalo are not animals to be taken lightly. A fully grown adult can weigh nearly a ton and possesses enough power to toss aside almost any threat if it feels cornered. For this reason, the Hadzabe never approach a hunt recklessly. They pause on a low rise to observe from a distance. Beyond the tall grass, the herd was slowly moving toward a shallow depression in the land. Their curved horns stood out beneath the sunlight like enormous crescent blades gliding across a sea of golden grass. The hunters quickly spread out in different directions. Rather than approaching head-on, they use the terrain and wind direction to their advantage as they gradually close the distance. Every movement was carefully calculated. A sudden gust carrying human scent could cause the entire herd to disappear in an instant. After nearly an hour of maneuvering around bushes and shallow gullies, they were close enough to observe each individual animal. The lead hunter patiently waited for the perfect moment before signaling the rest of the group to prepare. At last, the decisive moment arrived. A large buffalo separated from the herd and moved toward a patch of dense brush. For a few brief seconds, everything seemed to fall silent. The hunters focused all their attention on the target. Then the stillness shattered as the herd suddenly detected the presence of humans. Clouds of dust billowed into the air as pounding hooves turned the savannah into a scene of chaos. A short but intense pursuit unfolded amid heavy breathing and the thunderous rhythm of both human and animal footsteps. As the sun began to sink toward the western horizon, the hunting party returned to camp. News of a successful expedition quickly spread throughout the community. Children ran out to greet them from afar, while the elders smiled with quiet satisfaction beside a fire that was being rekindled. The next task was to share the harvest with everyone. For the Hadzabe, hunting is never the achievement of a single individual, but the accomplishment of the entire community. Every portion of food is distributed fairly so that no one is left behind. As night gradually settled over the Tanzanian savannah, everyone gathered around the flickering firelight. Laughter, stories, and memories of the day's hunt blended with the sounds of the African night. In an increasingly modern world, the Hadzabe people continue to maintain a way of life deeply connected to the land, the animals, and the natural rhythms that surround them. The buffalo hunt provides more than food. It reflects a profound knowledge, patience, and adaptability that have enabled this community to endure for countless generations in the wild landscapes of Tanzania.
Across the dry lands surrounding Lake Eyasi, water is the most valuable resource. During long dry seasons, the few remaining waterholes become gathering places for countless animals. However, these life-sustaining areas are also home to dangerous predators. Along the muddy shores, crocodiles often lie motionless for hours, patiently waiting for an opportunity to strike. The Hadzabe people have understood this threat for generations and avoid direct confrontation, knowing that a single mistake can have serious consequences.
They use intelligence and strength to achieve.
Even so, they must approach these water sources every day, where the line between safety and danger remains incredibly thin. As the first rays of sunlight appear on the horizon, the Hadzabe hunters leave their camp. In their hands are the handmade bows that have long been part of their daily lives. Without modern technology or navigation equipment, they rely entirely on their ability to read nature. Fresh footprints in the soil, flattened grass, and well-used animal trails all provide valuable clues that guide them toward potential prey. The journey continues in silence. The hunters move carefully, using the landscape to conceal their presence. Once an animal is spotted among the scattered bushes, the group quickly adjusts their positions to gain an advantage.
Insects pollinating.
Every step is calculated to close the distance without drawing attention. When the right moment arrives, the bows are drawn tight and arrows are released. Success is never guaranteed, but patience and persistence remain essential parts of their hunting tradition. After the hunt is over, the work begins immediately. Everyone naturally takes on a role without needing instructions or formal assignments. For the Hadzabe, hunting is not about proving individual strength. It is a responsibility shared by the entire community. The food that is obtained belongs to everyone, not just the hunter who made the successful shot. By midday, the group gathers at a familiar location to prepare a communal meal. They do not hunt more than they truly need. Instead, they take only what is necessary to sustain themselves. This balanced approach has helped them live alongside nature for countless generations. Very little is wasted, and every usable part of the animal is put to practical use. Beyond providing food, many animals also hold cultural significance within Hadzabe traditions. Elders often share knowledge passed down through generations about how certain animal parts were once used in traditional practices. While some of these beliefs may differ from modern science, they reflect the deep connection between the community and the natural world. Each hunt serves not only as a source of food, but also as a way of preserving ancestral knowledge. When the food is brought back to camp, it is shared among everyone. What stands out most is not their hunting ability, but their strong sense of community. No one tries to keep more than their fair share. Elders, women, children, and even the dogs that accompany the hunters all receive a portion. These dogs are more than companions. They help track animals, warn of danger, and support the hunters throughout many stages of the journey. As darkness settles over Lake Iasi, the community gathers around the fire after a long day in the harsh wilderness. During the day, they travel across vast landscapes following animal tracks. At night, they return to their families and continue a way of life that has endured for countless generations. Perhaps it is this combination of unity and survival skills that has allowed the Hadzabe people to overcome the challenges of the wild for so long. If you enjoyed learning about the Hadzabe way of life, don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating stories about people and nature from around the world. The atmosphere by the water was unbelievably quiet. The surface of the lake lay as smooth as a giant mirror reflecting the sky. with no loud sounds and no obvious signs of life. But to the Hadzabe people, that very stillness was the most suspicious thing of all. They understood that beneath the seemingly harmless water could be hiding one of the most dangerous predators in the wilderness. As the sun gradually climbed higher, the group moved toward the water's edge. Before them stretched damp bands of sand and a few faint tracks leading from the shore into the water before disappearing. To others, those traces might have meant nothing, but to hunters who had spent their entire lives observing nature, they were a clear message that something already claimed this place. No one walked directly to the water's edge. The group slowed down, placing each step carefully on the soft ground. They avoided making any unnecessary noise, because in an environment like this, even the slightest disturbance could change the situation. Their eyes constantly scanned every direction. They were not only watching the surface of the water, but also paying attention to unusual colors in the mud, dark patches beneath the trees, and even small ripples that appeared and vanished. A crocodile is a master of camouflage. It does not need to move much to become nearly invisible. That is why the real hunt begins with patience rather than action. After many minutes of observation, one member of the group quietly signaled. No words were spoken. A simple nod was enough for everyone to understand what was happening. They quickly adjusted their positions, spreading out in a wide arc along the shoreline while maintaining contact through eye movements. A gentle breeze sent steady ripples across the lake. Then, among countless natural movements, something unusual appeared. A dark object shifted briefly before disappearing beneath the surface. To an outsider, it might have looked like nothing more than a drifting log. But to the Hadzabe, it was the target. What happened next unfolded far more quickly than the earlier silence had suggested. The entire group sprang into action at once. The distance was closed in a matter of seconds. The water suddenly erupted with powerful movement. Large waves spread outward in every direction, shattering the stillness that had dominated the morning. The struggle lasted only a short time, but it was intense. Then, just as quickly as it had begun, everything gradually settled. The lake returned to its peaceful appearance, as if nature had just concealed a secret known only to those who were there to witness it. After leaving the water's edge, the group moved to a drier area to process their catch. The work began immediately with remarkable skill and efficiency. There was not a moment of hesitation. Each person took on the task they knew best. Usable parts were carefully set aside, while anything unnecessary was quickly discarded. Every movement was precise and effective, reflecting knowledge and experience passed down through generations of survival in the wild. Once the initial preparation was complete, their attention shifted to another familiar task, preparing a meal. Dry branches were gathered from the surrounding area and arranged into a small pile. Before long, the first sparks appeared, and a fire slowly took shape. They needed no stove or modern equipment, only a steady source of heat and their own experience. The food was placed near the glowing embers, where the warmth spread evenly and gradually. When the food reached the desired level of doneness, everyone began taking their share. No one gave instructions, and no rules were spoken aloud. Those sitting closest took their portions first, and naturally shared with the people around them. Pieces of food were passed from hand to hand in a familiar rhythm. Some ate immediately while the food was still hot, while others left theirs near the embers for a few more minutes. The pace differed from person to person, yet it never felt disconnected. Everything blended into a natural sense of unity. Gradually, the meal came to an end. A few people stood up first to gather the items they needed to carry with them. Others remained seated a little longer, enjoying the peaceful afternoon. The small fire had faded to a handful of glowing coals. For the Hadzabe, this was not a special event, but simply a familiar part of everyday life. From observing nature and searching for food to preparing and sharing the harvest, everything flowed seamlessly, like the natural rhythm of a new day, ending as gently as it had begun.
If a day began without schedules or anything urgent to chase, could life still feel complete? For the Hadzabe people living around Lake Ayasi, the answer is yes. When the first light appears over the savannah, they wake up to continue a way of life that has existed for thousands of years. It is a life based on hunting and gathering, where each day is guided by nature rather than clocks or work schedules. The Hadzabe own very few possessions and rarely make long-term plans. Carrying their bows and arrows, they quietly leave their camp and move through familiar grasslands and bushland. Along the way, they observe the ground, listen to sounds, and pay attention to even the smallest changes in their surroundings. For them, hunting is not a competition or a way to prove themselves, but simply a method of finding food for the community. Before each journey, the men sit together and prepare their bows and arrows. There are no modern tools, only wood, animal sinew, plant resin, and stone. Every arrow is handmade using knowledge accumulated over many generations. Some arrowheads are coated with plant extracts to improve hunting effectiveness. These skills are not written down but passed on through observation and practice until they become second nature. As they move deeper into the forest, the group speaks very little. They keep enough distance to move freely while still working together. Along the way, they encounter many animals, including a serval quietly crossing through the grass. No one stops for long because such encounters are a normal part of daily life. For the Hadzabe, the forest is not a place to conquer but a shared living space with countless other species. After hours of following tracks, the hunters discover an African civet. There are no cheers or displays of excitement, every movement is careful and patient. When the hunt ends, they simply nod quietly, as if completing a necessary task. For the Hadzabe, hunting is not a symbol of power or victory but a part of maintaining balance with nature. The Hadzabe do not always continue moving forward. They are especially cautious when approaching water sources, which sustain life but are also the territory of Nile crocodiles. When the risk appears too great, they willingly step back rather than take unnecessary chances. To them, survival does not mean overcoming every challenge but understanding personal limits and knowing when to stop. Sometimes caution is more important than courage. Alongside hunting, honey is one of the most valuable food sources for the Hadzabe. They search for wild beehives with very few tools, relying mainly on knowledge passed down through generations. When they find honey, they take only what they need and eat it on the spot. This food source not only provides energy but also reflects the close connection between people and their environment. One remarkable aspect of Hadzabe life is that they rarely store food. They trust the natural cycles that have sustained their community for tens of thousands of years. When food is brought back, sharing becomes the most important thing. No one keeps a private portion for themselves, everyone gathers around the fire and divides the food fairly among all members of the community. Hadzabe children learn to share from a very young age. They understand that food not only nourishes the body but also strengthens community bonds. Many researchers consider this to be one of the most egalitarian societies in the world, where personal accumulation is uncommon and the well-being of the group always comes first. As the sun sets, Hadzabe families gather around the fire, talking and sharing food together. Their way of life shows that peace does not necessarily come from owning more, but from the connections people build with one another. If you found this story interesting, leave a comment telling us where you are watching from and subscribe to the channel.
I spent several days living with the Hadzabe people near Lake Eyasi in northern Tanzania. No one ever told me where we were going, what we were hunting, or when we would return. They simply walked into the forest, and I followed behind them. In this dry and unforgiving land, the forest is not a place for adventure or exploration the way many outsiders often imagine. For the Hadzabe, the forest provides everything: food, water, energy, and the knowledge needed to survive. There is no fixed schedule for how a day is supposed to unfold here. As the sun slowly rose above the horizon, several men quietly stood up, carrying bows, small knives, and long, sharpened sticks. We crossed an area covered in low bushes when one of the men suddenly signaled for everyone to stop. He crouched down and stared closely at a dry bush near the ground. At first, I saw nothing unusual until I noticed a thick body of a python about the size of a wrist, perfectly camouflaged among the dry leaves. No one panicked. The men quickly exchanged glances and communicated with soft clicking sounds in their language. One of them stepped forward with a wooden bow in his hands, instead of shooting immediately. He slowly drew the bowstring and aimed into the bush, forcing the python to move and reveal more of its body. For several tense seconds, no one moved. Then the arrow flew. Once the animal was under control, I leaned down and firmly held its head to make sure it could no longer strike. Only then did I realize I had almost stopped breathing the entire time. Around me, the men simply looked at the python lying on the ground and quietly nodded to one another, as if everything had happened exactly as expected. A while later, the group stopped beside a patch of soft ground near rocks warmed by the sun. One man pointed toward a faint winding mark in the dusty sand, a trace I almost completely overlooked. According to them, it was a path the python had taken before being discovered in the bushes earlier. From that moment on, the entire group slowed down. They carefully studied every crack between the rocks and every dry tree stump with astonishing focus. For the Hadzabe, even the smallest marks on sand or dry leaves are enough to understand how an animal moved through an area. We continued deeper into the forest. After some time, one of the men pointed toward a hollow tree trunk where a small colony of bees had built a nest inside. What caught my attention was not the taste of the honey, but the way they shared it. The person who found the hive did not keep more for himself. The one who cut the honeycomb did not take the first portion either. Everything was shared naturally and evenly, as if that was simply the way life worked here. During hunting trips that lasted for hours, honey became a quick source of energy directly provided by the forest itself. Once everyone finished eating, they wiped their hands, put out the smoking bundle, and continued walking as though it had only been a short pause along the journey. After walking farther, we stopped in a small clearing and decided to prepare the python right there. The snake was cut into manageable pieces. A small fire was quickly built using dry branches. There were no pots, pans, or complicated tools. Several pieces of meat were placed directly onto the glowing coals. Before long, the smell of roasting meat spread across the savannah. Once the meat was cooked, we sliced it into smaller portions and shared it among everyone. Python meat was firm and slightly chewy. It tasted somewhat like chicken, but richer and stronger. There was no salt or seasoning at all, yet after hours of walking through thick brush, the hot meat tasted surprisingly good. As I sat beside the fire, watching everyone eat, talk, and laugh together, I began to realize something important. What makes the Hadzabe way of life so different is not simply that they hunt and gather food. It is the way they live alongside the environment around them. They do not store large amounts of food, nor do they carry many possessions into the forest. Instead, they rely on their deep understanding of nature, knowing where to find water, where honey may be hidden, and where animals are most likely to appear. The forest sustains them, and they understand it deeply enough to survive within it.
Situations, the Hadzabe must act. Across the vast African savanna, where life and death are separated by only a few steps, I witnessed a rare moment when humans came face to face with the wild. This was not an ordinary hunt, but an encounter between the Hadzabe tribe and the most feared predator of the land, the lion. As the first light of dawn spread across the horizon, a distant roar shattered the silence, reminding everyone that humans are not the only creatures on this savanna with survival instincts and hunting skills. For many people, the lion is a symbol of power. But for the Hadzabe, one of the oldest hunter-gatherer communities still living today, it can sometimes be a very real threat. Encounters like this test the survival skills of the entire community. In an environment where food determines survival, protecting the results of a hunt is critically important. Hunters understood the danger before them, and the mood within the group quickly became serious. They carefully inspected their bows, tightened their bowstrings, and prepared arrows coated with traditional poison made from local plants to improve their ability to defend themselves. Wooden spears and hunting knives were also kept ready as a last resort if the situation moved beyond their control. As the sun climbed higher, an antelope lying in an open area became the focus of the hunt. Suddenly, a fully grown male lion emerged from the nearby grass. Its massive body and fierce stare made it clear that it had no intention of giving up the prey. A deep roar echoed across the savanna, asserting its claim and instantly narrowing the distance between man and predator. The hunters held their ground, gripping their weapons tightly while watching every movement of the lion. This was no longer simply about securing food. It had become a contest of strategy between two sides determined to protect their own interests. Two young hunters quickly raised their bows, while the oldest and most experienced hunter stepped forward with a spear in hand to lead the group. Standoff continued in an atmosphere filled with tension. The lion constantly watched, growled, and weighed the possibility of attacking. On the other side, the hunters maintained a solid formation without showing any sign of panic. It was a moment when generations of experience proved their value. Rather than allowing fear to take control, They remained calm and applied steady pressure, forcing the lion to reconsider the risks of the confrontation. They also used their bows and arrows to keep pressure on the animal. In the end, persistence paid off. After several tense minutes, the lion realized that the cost of claiming the meal might be too high. With a frustrated roar, it turned away and disappeared into the tall grass. There was no dramatic chase, but the moment demonstrated that human determination and teamwork can change the outcome even when facing the most feared predator. As the sun began to set, the hunters carried their prey back to camp. The tension of the savannah gave way to excitement and relief. The animal was cleaned beside the camp and divided into portions to be roasted over glowing coals. The smell of cooking meat drifted through the open area as everyone gathered around the fire.
Future depends on a bold decision. And lions frequently steal the Hadzabe's hard-earned kill situations. The Hadzabe must act. It is their honor, their sustenance, and their ancestral.
For the Hadzabe, a meal is not only about nourishment, but also about sharing the rewards of collective effort. The laughter and conversations around the fire showed that unity remains the strength that has helped them survive for generations. Witnessing this encounter made me realize that the courage of the Hadzabe does not come from recklessness. It is the result of experience, knowledge, and adaptability passed down through generations. In the modern world, their way of life may seem very different, but it is their deep connection with nature that has allowed them to preserve survival skills that are becoming increasingly rare today. If you found this story interesting, leave a comment and share your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more extraordinary adventures.
Before every hunt, the Hadzabe men drink fresh goat blood to boost their strength and prepare their minds before entering the harsh African wilderness. But what awaits them is far more than prey. A Nile crocodile over 4 meters long suddenly bursts from the muddy water near the riverbank. Farther away, an African rock python coils beneath layers of dead leaves, while aardvarks roam across the scorching semi-desert. With no guns and no modern technology, the Hadzabe rely only on handmade bows, hunting dogs, and survival skills passed down through generations. Every step could lead to food for the entire tribe, or one mistake that means they never return. As the new day began, the small Hadzabe camp woke to ancient songs echoing through the quiet semi-desert. They danced with the belief that those songs would bring luck and help everyone return safely after the hunt. Before leaving, a few hunters shared a bowl of a nutritious drink obtained from livestock, believing it could strengthen the body and help them keep their energy during long hours under the extreme heat. After that, the group picked up their bows and left the camp to begin the hunt. Aardvarks often appear in this area. Suddenly, everyone stopped beside a freshly disturbed patch of ground, marked by long twisting grooves. They immediately recognized that an aardvark had been searching for food there only a few hours earlier. The group quickly changed direction and followed the trail through low thorny bushes. Then, the aardvarks suddenly appeared. An arrow was fired from close range, and one of them was quickly brought down. As the sun grew harsher, the hunt continued toward a shallow water area hidden deep among the grasslands. Nile crocodiles often appear there. The group used a wooden canoe to approach the prey, then used a long pole to strike. The crocodile immediately thrashed with force, sending mud and water across the swamp. The chase continued for hours under unforgiving heat, until the animal began to weaken near the grassy bank. On the way back to camp, a large movement beneath fallen bushes made the hunting dogs step back and growl low. An old shed skin caught on a dry branch, along with a long drag mark across the sand, signaled the presence of an African rock python. The huge snake was coiled beside a crack in the rocks, its body almost as thick as a small tree trunk and camouflaged with the color of the surrounding earth. The hunters spread out immediately to keep their distance. Instead of using bows and arrows, they decided to capture the python with their hands and a rope. The snake twisted violently, its massive body tightening through the dry grass before gradually slowing down. But what caught the group's attention even more was behind the rock crack. Beneath the soft soil and dry leaves were dozens of python eggs hidden inside the nest. For the Hadzabe, they are an extremely valuable food source, especially during times when hunting becomes difficult. When the hunters returned in the late afternoon, smoke was already rising from the small camp. No one kept the best portion for themselves. The meat was divided equally beside the fire. Part of the crocodile was cut and placed into a pot to simmer until tender, while the eggs were saved to be eaten gradually. Conversations and laughter slowly filled the empty land as the whole community shared dinner after a long day. What makes the Hadzabe most remarkable is not that they hunt dangerous animals, but how they survive through observation and adaptation. They do not hunt for excess or accumulation. Every footprint in the sand, every movement in the bushes, and every opportunity in the desert can become life for the entire community. In a world increasingly dependent on technology and speed, this way of life feels like an ancient memory of humanity that still exists today.